Hi everyone! Today I am so excited to be collaborating with Hannah, aka Smokey Glow. I just love her and her channel. She just has such amazing videos. She gives such good commentary on the beauty industry and she's just so much fun to watch. She just has such a lovely presence and she's just so enjoyable. And anyway, if you haven't heard of her, please go and check her out and subscribe to her channel. Her video and her channel will be linked down below in my description box, of course. But we are going to be talking about popular makeup brands that we don't like. So I am going to take a slightly different take on this than I have kind of done in the past, because I feel like I've talked a lot about brands I don't like for different reasons, and I feel like there's a lot of usual suspects that come up time and time again. So I thought that I would be just a little bit pettier than normal and talk about some of the reasons why I don't like some brands that I just don't talk about as much as some of the other more controversial brands I've talked about not liking. So I will mention two brands that I have talked about before in a not so good light, and I will say with every one of these brands I'm talking about, it's not that I would never use these products. It's not that I'm saying that these brands don't have good products. It's just that in general, I don't go for these brands. In general, they just don't speak to me for whatever reason, or I have some sort of like petty grievance against them. So the first one, when I was thinking of this topic, the very first brand that came to mind for me was Clinique. This is a brand I've talked about many times. It's a very popular, well-loved brand. I don't like it because I've actually experienced a lot of issues with my skin after using Clinique products, the skincare and the makeup. I've had some pretty bad reactions, especially to the eyeshadow. There are some things I like in general about Clinique, like the Cheek Pop blushes. I really like these things. Good formula, good product, you know, really easy to use. But whenever I look at a Clinique display, like whenever I'm walking through a department store, beauty section, or Sephora, I will look at it for a couple of seconds and just be like, thank you, next, and move on to the next thing, because it just doesn't interest me. It doesn't captivate my interest. It doesn't inspire me like other brands. And I talked about that specifically in my Brands That Bore Me video. And on the same note of brands that bore me, that just don't interest me, and that is a very popular brand, is Lancome. And I don't know if it's because I've never gotten over my jealousy of never having one of those Juicy Tubes lip glosses when I was in junior high. That's probably the reason. But Lancome is just a brand that I see so many people rave about. So many people love that brand and they say such good things about it. But for me, I'm not interested at all. Like, I keep trying to force myself because so many people say, Elle, you will love this. You should try this. Try the foundation. Try this product. Try that product. And every time I go to do it, I can't. I just can't commit to it because it's just, like, I don't like this brand. I really just don't. I don't like it. I don't like it. I will use the stuff I have. I've tried some samples of skincare, which has been really good. But when it comes to the makeup products, I can just so easily pass. The next brand I'm going to talk about is Besame Cosmetics. So I know there's going to be so many people who are going to hate me after this, but for me, I really tie that brand to red lipstick. And being somebody who just hates red lipstick so much, I can't separate it in my mind. Like, I know they have other products. I really like the general vibe of Besame. I love the vintage feel of everything, and just the whole aesthetic of the brand is really cool. But red lipstick is just such a no for me. I haven't been able to quite figure out what it is with me in red lipstick. It's such a classic product, and I feel like I never do red lipstick justice, and so I just have such a hate for it because it's such a classic item. And that's why I just can't get into Besame. I just have these strong associations that I can't separate. I told you this was going to be pretty petty. There's a lot of petty reasons for me not liking certain brands, and I know there's definitely good reasons to try all of them, and I hope nobody is taking this too personally. This is just my crazy, ridiculous opinions. Hourglass is the next brand I'm going to talk about. I keep wanting to like Hourglass. Like, I generally like the higher end products at Sephora. Like, I feel like there's a few different tiers, and Hourglass kind of falls in with some of the other luxury brands that Sephora sells that I like Dior, for example. But Hourglass, I think it's just because I haven't really been impressed by things. The ambient lighting powder has broken me out every time I've used it, so, and I can't get into it now. So many people rave about it, and it's one of those brands that I feel like is really overhyped. And I feel like everybody always says such good things about it, and the complaints are so small. Like, I feel like everybody minimizes any complaints about Hourglass, and it's always like, well, you know, the products are expensive, and when you look at the holiday palette, it's really expensive for the amount of product that you get, but that seems to be it. And I just feel like people speak so highly of it that I just kind of hate it. Do you ever dislike something without ever trying it or without knowing much about it just because other people love it so much? I feel like that happens to me so often, where somebody will rave about something like a book or a TV show, a movie, you know, makeup, and because people love it so much, I'm just like, I'm gonna hate this. Pretty much everything that I've grown to love in my life was stuff that I rebelled against at first because it was so popular. Seriously, I refused to read Harry Potter at first because so many people were talking about how much they loved it, and I was like, can't be that good. I refused to watch Gilmore Girls when it was first out because so many people were talking about how good it was after the first season, and I was like, can't be that good. Fleetwood Mac, I refused to listen to Fleetwood Mac for a while because I was like, oh, overhyped, can't do it. I would never like a band like that. I need to stop doing it. It's such a bad thing, but it's obviously been going on for like forever. I feel like I do that sometimes with people, like YouTubers, and somebody gets really popular and then I'm like, yeah, no, they can't be that good. No, I can't like them. No, so many other people like them, so I can't like them. And I'm sure there's like elements of jealousy in that as well too, but with Hourglass, you know, I just haven't tried anything that's blown my mind. Like, the closest thing would be maybe the Mineral Veil Primer, which is pretty good, but the other things are so forgettable for me, and I just can't get over how much people seem to love it when I've had such so-so experiences with the brand. Smashbox is another one. I've talked about Smashbox before as well. Smashbox is a brand that I have a few things from that I really enjoy using a lot. But in general, I always like skip over the brand. I have kind of a weird association with it and the drugstore. Before we even had Sephora here, we had Shoppers Drug Mart. We still have Shoppers, and they sell a mix of high-end and low-end beauty products. So we're talking like the typical drugstore stuff, CoverGirl, Maybelline, L'Oreal, and then higher-end stuff like Smashbox, Benefit. Some places sell Dior, some other like Canadian specific brands like Liz Wautier, and Smashbox was always in every single Shoppers around me, despite the Shoppers never usually carrying a lot of brands. Like, some of the stores are a lot larger, and a lot of the ones around me were always very small because I was never in a big city, and it was always Smashbox. So you would have the lower end stuff, Wet n Wild, and you would have NYC and NYX, and then you would have Smashbox at the same place. And I think I have such a prejudice against it. Now, there's nothing wrong with drugstore makeup. Before anybody puts words in my mouth or tries to spin this in a weird way, I just have a very clear idea of different makeup tiers. So like, drugstore makeup is drugstore makeup and higher end makeup is high end makeup. I'm not some snob who's like, I only dip my fingers in the finest gold supplied by Natasha Denona. No, okay? But Smashbox to me just has that association to drugstore, so when I see it in another place and I actually look at the price, like, there's still part of me that's like, this should only be like $15. This shouldn't be $50. And it's hard to break that. That's the weird thing for me with Shoppers. And now they've made some changes to their stores after the last couple of years, so there actually is a clear separation. So you have like drugstore stuff in one area and then you have the higher end stuff in another, which makes the separation clearer because they actually have beauty boutiques. So you have the higher end stuff all kind of contained in one side, and then you have the drugstore stuff, so it makes more sense in my mind. And some of these other brands don't affect me in the same way because they are like completely separated, or they're things that I just didn't grow up with. I feel like that's part of the reason why I don't like purchase Liz Wautier. There's some other brands that were always around inside the drugstore, and it was just such a weird thing to wrap my mind around, because for me, I always think drugstore low prices. I don't think of the really high-end expensive products like they do sell, and it's just a weird thing that I haven't been able to get over, which is why I have some issues with Smashbox. The only drugstore brand that I really skip over a lot is Revlon, and that's because I used Revlon a lot when I was younger, and I feel like I have some ties to like some bad experiences in my life when, you know, you go through those phases, and I feel like kind of the ages like 13 to 15 can be rough for a lot of girls, and for me it definitely was. And I know I used a lot of Revlon during that time. My mother really loved Revlon, and we would shop the sales at the drugstore, and it was almost always Revlon products. And you know, I really loved like Maybelline and CoverGirl, but my mother was always buying me Revlon, and I feel like I definitely have ties to those bad memories and Revlon, so it's hard for me now to go into the drugstore and like willingly purchase Revlon when I'm like, there's so many other options that I don't have these horrible bad memories tied to. It has nothing to do with the products themselves, right? It has everything to do with me and my weird brain. There's so many times I want to try some things and I just can't. Like, I look at some of the stuff and it reminds me of some of the things that I used when I was younger, and you just get those like flashbacks, and it's just like, I can't do it. I know it probably sounds absolutely bizarre to some people. I like talking about these like petty reasons why you don't like brands or don't like things, because I feel like you can reveal a lot about a person and a lot of weirdness that's underneath the surface, because a lot of the stuff is stuff that I haven't talked about before. But that's really like the only brands that I really don't like and I don't purchase much from because of those silly reasons. Like, there are other brands I've talked a lot about not purchasing from, brands that I have issues with, like the brand ownership, or something like the lack of shade range, or the way that they've treated customers or spoken about customer bases. Like, I have all those issues as well, but I feel like I've talked about it so often that I didn't want to bring up the same things again. So if I didn't mention a brand, it doesn't mean that I'm supporting them. And if I did mention a brand, it doesn't mean that I will never use the products. I feel like sometimes it feels like I back myself into a corner, but it's just because other people are pushing me there. Like, I'm not saying that I will never purchase something from Hourglass. I'm never saying I will never purchase something from Revlon. I'm just explaining why I don't like the brands and why you probably won't see me use them very often. Anyway, this was a lot of fun. I'm really grateful to Hannah for collaborating with me after I kind of backed her into a corner on Twitter. Kind of. I'm such a horrible person for arranging collaborations. I've been burned so many times in the past. So I'll just put a general invitation out there and be like, hey, if you want to do this, hey, maybe we should collab sometime, and kind of leave it to the other person. Because then if they don't come back to you, it's like, you might think about it from time to time and be like, yeah, I put that out there and they didn't bite. But sometimes they do, and I'm really glad. And I know Hannah has a very packed schedule for December where she has a video coming out every day. So another reason why you need to watch her channel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope we get a chance to chat soon. Bye for now.